The year is 2024, and if you've been watching the news, you're seeing headlines about tanks, missiles, and sanctions. But you're missing the terrifying truth. The real war isn't being fought by soldiers on a muddy field, it's being fought by drones. Cheap, small, and utterly merciless. And the shocking reality is, Russia is losing the drone war. They told you that Russia, the military superpower, the massive Soviet-era war machine, would crush Ukraine quickly. They claimed their electronic warfare. Ew. Systems were impenetrable. But what if that entire belief system is completely, terrifyingly wrong? Just stop for a moment and picture this. You've seen the clips. A tiny, off-the-shelf, $500 drone, something you could buy on Amazon, dropping an explosive right into a $10 million tank that isn't just war. It's a terrifying, paradigm-shifting humiliation. The fear of becoming obsolete, the fear of losing control, the fear of watching your billion-dollar empire crumble to a $500 piece of plastic that is the root of Putin's panic mode. I'm not here to talk about geopolitics or troop movements. I'm here to unveil the secret, desperate game Russia is playing right now. They've launched a new, ultra-aggressive counter drone strategy. They're throwing billions of dollars and their best engineers at this problem, and I'm going to show you step by step exactly why that strategy is collapsing and what this means for the future of warfare. You may think Russia is too big to fail, but the very thing they built their power on, brute force and centralized control, is now their biggest weakness against a small, agile swarm of flying cameras. This is the information they do not want you to know, and by the end of this video, you will understand. Firstly, the $5 billion panic plan, the desperate, multi-layered counter drone system Russia unveiled. Secondly, the fatal flaw, the single technical and cultural blind spot that ensures this strategy will fail. Thirdly, the future of war, why the side that wins the software war, not the hardware war, will determine the next decade. Stay with me, because what you are about to see is the real, undeniable reason why Putin is not just angry, he is terrified. The fear of obsolescence, why Putin panicked. Let's look at the emotional trigger here. Russia's military doctrine has always been about dominance. They rely on massive tanks, huge ships, and powerful artillery. They believe in the old world order of military might. But drones have become the silent assassin of that doctrine. A tiny disposable machine bypassing years of military spending and engineering. This isn't just a military loss, it's a humiliation of the Russian ego. It shatters the image of an invincible military. The official term for this feeling is cognitive dissonance. They are holding two conflicting beliefs. We are a great power, and we are being beaten by toys. The panic sets in when they realize their foundational beliefs about war are wrong. The initial Russian response, and why it failed. Russia's first response was predictable, deny, and escalate. But soon, the drones were hitting deep inside Russian territory, striking strategic air bases and the Kremlin itself. That's when the panic accelerated. They tried jamming. They deployed their most advanced U systems, like the Krasuka 4 and the R-330 Joe Zeitel. These are systems designed to jam aircraft and radar. But the drones adapted. This is the crucial point. The Ukrainians didn't just buy commercial drones. They modified the software. They introduced GPS, spoofing countermeasures, and human in the loop control systems. The drone war isn't about hardware anymore. It's about code. And Russia's military-industrial complex, slow, centralized, and bureaucratic, couldn't keep up with the agile, decentralized, startup-like mentality of Ukrainian drone developers. This first wave of failure forced Putin's hand. The EW failure was the direct trigger for Putin's panic mode. They realized they needed a complete strategic overhaul. The Kremlin understood they had a monumental problem. The war was becoming a public relations disaster, and more importantly, a physical threat to their most valuable assets. So, they unveiled the $5 billion counter drone strategy. This wasn't just a defensive plan. It was a desperate, multi-faceted attempt to regain control of the air and crush the Ukrainian swarm. This new strategy is built on three main pillars. Let's break down each of them and see where the plan falls apart almost immediately. Firstly, the drone kill box, saturation defense. Russia's new approach is to create defensive kill boxes around high-value targets, such as Moscow, oil refineries, and naval bases. This strategy is based on saturation defense. The strategy: they are deploying thousands of new short-range air defense systems, like the Tor, M2 and Panzer, S1, specifically instructed to shoot down slow, moving, low, flying drones. They are also equipping every single combat vehicle with new directional EW systems designed to jam drones in a small radius. The goal is to create such a dense, multi-layered defensive barrier that no drone, no matter how cheap or small, can penetrate the airspace. It's essentially a digital fortress. The fatal flaw: the cost. This system is astronomically expensive to maintain, staff, and run. The cost of a Panzer missile to shoot down a $500 drone is thousands of times higher. This is the economic suicide inherent in Putin's panic mode. You can't win a war of attrition when your defense costs thousands and the enemy's offense costs pennies. Secondly, the human net, the civilian drone ban. Recognizing the technical difficulty of identifying commercial drones from military ones, Russia has implemented draconian measures aimed at eliminating the source: civilian drone pilots. The strategy: Russia has imposed severe, often confusing bans on civilian drone use across many regions. Furthermore, they have mobilized civilian police and military reserves to form specialized hunter-killer teams tasked with visually identifying and physically destroying any non-military drone. They are effectively turning the drone war into an internal security crisis. The intent: eliminate the domestic supply chain of parts and intelligence gathering from within. This is a move born out of paranoia and centralized control. The fatal flaw: the bureaucratic nightmare. The bans are so confusing and widespread that they cripple legitimate industrial and civil operation. Farmers, surveyors, and construction companies can't use drones, hurting Russia's own economy and infrastructure. They are shooting themselves in the foot to stop the bleeding. This panic measure shows a deep mistrust of their own population. Thirdly, the EW Hammer, the Global Jamming Initiative. This is the most aggressive and globally disruptive part of the strategy. Russia is attempting to weaponize their EU capabilities on a scale that impacts global communications. The strategy: they are massively increasing the power, output, and geographic range of their EW systems, specifically to target the GPS and satellite communication links that guide Ukrainian drones. This isn't just localized jamming. It's an attempt to create vast GPS dead zones across Eastern Europe, hoping to blind the entire drone fleet simultaneously. The intent: achieve a knockout blow. If they can destroy the guiding signal, the drones are useless. The fatal flaw: the international backlash and technical redundancy. Firstly, this jamming affects civilian aviation, maritime traffic, and neighboring countries, triggering diplomatic crises and forcing NATO to respond. Secondly, modern drones are already transitioning to inertial navigation systems, INS, which rely on internal gyroscopes and accelerometers, making them immune to GPS jamming. The EW Hammer is targeting a problem that is already obsolete. These three pillars, saturation defense, human net, and global jamming, are the desperate, multi-billion-dollar attempts by Russia to solve a $500 problem. And they are failing because they fundamentally misunderstand the nature of the fight. Russia's counter-drone strategy is failing not because of bad technology, but because of bad culture. This is the most crucial insight that will define the outcome of this conflict and the future of military power. The root of their failure lies in the cultural blind spot of the centralized Soviet-style military-industrial complex. The cultural death trap: centralization versus agility. The Russian system is a cultural death trap for innovation. This is a principle that goes beyond war. It applies to any large, old organization trying to fight against a swarm of agile startups. The Ukrainian model: decentralized agility. Ukraine's drone development is often run by small, independent teams of engineers, hackers, and soldiers. They can identify a flaw in a drone software, write a patch, and upload it to the entire fleet in a matter of hours. Their military doctrine encourages decentralized decision making. A drone pilot can see an opportunity and act immediately. This is the entrepreneurial spirit applied to warfare. The Russian model: bureaucratic paralysis. For Russia, a software patch needs to go up the chain of command through multiple layers of bureaucracy, approved by committees that may not even understand the technology, before being sent down to the field weeks or even months later. They are fighting a software war with a hardware mindset. This isn't just slow, it's institutionalized paralysis. The fear of reporting bad news. In any rigid, top-down hierarchy, there is a fundamental fear, the fear of reporting bad news up the chain. Imogen, you are a Russian U commander. Your billion-dollar system has just been defeated by a $500 drone with a new software update. Do you immediately report that failure to your superior, knowing it might lead to your demotion or punishment, or do you downplay it, hide the technical flaw, and wait for a command to fix the problem that never comes? This fear of reporting creates a systemic flaw. The data reaching Putin is always sanitized and delayed. By the time the Russian military gets authorization to fix a drone problem, the Ukrainians have already updated their software 2 or 3 times. The enemy is running circles around them in the time it takes for a memo to travel through the Russian military bureaucracy. The software gap. Why code is the new bullet? The final decisive flaw is the failure to recognize that software is the new battlefield. Russia is still focused on hardware, building bigger jammers, more missiles, and better radar. But the drones' innovation is happening in the code. Firstly, in transition. As mentioned, drones are shifting from external GPS reliance to internal inertial navigation systems INS. This makes Russia's massive GPS jamming efforts obsolete. Secondly, machine learning, ML, targeting. Ukrainian drones are being equipped with basic ML models that allow them to identify targets visually, even when communications are completely cut. The drone is no longer a remote-controlled toy, it's a semi-autonomous weapon. Thirdly, swarm coordination. The future involves swarms of dozens or even hundreds of drones coordinating autonomously. Russia's current counter: drone defenses are designed to shoot down one target at a time. They are completely defenseless against a coordinated swarm. Putin's strategy is targeting the past. They are spending billions to solve the drone problem of 2022, while Ukraine is already fighting the drone war of 2025. This cultural and structural blind spot is why Putin's panic mode will continue to fail, despite the massive military budget. The failure of Russia's counter drone strategy has ripple effects that go far beyond the immediate battlefield. This collapse is impacting Russia's economy, damaging its global image, and, most importantly, leaving a psychological scar on its leadership. This is the global consequence of cultural inflexibility. The economic drain. A war of attrition they cannot win. The economic aspect of this panic is unsustainable. The drone missile mismatch, as discussed, shooting down a $500 drone with a $1 million missile is an economic suicide pact. The constant, necessary expenditure on high-value munitions to protect low-value infrastructure, like a remote oil depot or a logistics truck, is bleeding the Russian defense budget dry. The opportunity cost. Every single dollar spent on a failing counter drone system is a dollar not spent on repairing tanks, training soldiers, or manufacturing essential artillery shells. The panic plan is diverting critical resources, paradoxically weakening other, more traditional military capabilities. Crippling civilian infrastructure, the sweeping drone bans, Pillar 2, are creating a bureaucratic choke point on Russia's own economy. Industries that rely on drone surveying, agriculture, or infrastructure inspection are grinding to a halt in restricted zones. This panic is damaging Russia's internal strength just as much as external attacks are. The psychological scar, reading the faces of power. Now, let's bring in the unique element of physiognomy and psychology. The thumbnail you saw earlier tells a powerful story. Putin's face, the rage, the screaming, the strained muscles. This isn't just anger. It's manifested frustration and loss of control. The outside expression of a man who sees his massive, complex system being undone by simple, cheap asymmetry. For an autocratic leader, an inability to control the narrative or the skies is a direct challenge to their power. This rage is a warning sign of strategic failure. Zelensky's smile, the calm, confident, almost knowing smile. This isn't just defiance, it's the confidence of the agile underdog. It represents the psychological high ground, the knowledge that his side is winning the war of innovation, of speed, and of psychological impact. The smile tells the story of an empowered individual who knows where the real power lies, in the hands of the engineers, not the generals. For the audience, the physiognomy to problem link is critical. The audience sees the visible stress, Putin's rage, and connects it immediately to the invisible problem, the failing strategy. This makes the content feel more urgent, and relatable 5 lessons from Putin's panic mode for the future. This failure is a blueprint for the 21st century conflict. These lessons go for beyond Ukraine. They apply to every nation and every industry. Firstly, the $500 problem. Recognize that cheap, mass-produced asymmetry can defeat expensive, high-tech superiority. Defense doctrines must prioritize cost, effective countermeasures. Secondly, agility trumps hierarchy. Centralized bureaucratic systems cannot innovate fast enough to fight a digital war. The military of the future must foster decentralized decision making and rapid bottom-up innovation. Thirdly, the code is the weapon. The critical infrastructure is now software. Wars will be won not by the best hardware factory, but by the most adaptive, secure, and rapidly deployable software patches. Fourthly, trust your people. Severe top-down security measures, like Russia's civilian drone ban, hurt the war effort more than they help. A country's greatest asset is its agile, decentralized talent pool. Fifthly, the shift from force to knowledge. The narrative is everything. The side that uses social media, technology, and information most effectively to demonstrate competence and hope will win the global psychological war, regardless of physical territory. Conclusion: the war of obsolescence. We are witnessing the death of a military philosophy. Putin's panic mode is the final, desperate struggle of the old order against the new. Their new counter, drone strategy, the billion-dollar answer to a $500 problem, is doomed because it addresses the symptoms of the past, not the technological and cultural realities of the future. The future belongs to the agile, the decentralized, and the innovative. Do not be a spectator in this information war. The biggest mistake you can make is believing that these military lessons don't apply to your life. The world is changing faster than you think. If you are ready to learn how to adapt and become agile in your own life and finances, I have a free guide that breaks down the 3 biggest financial mistakes facing people today. Click the link in the description to download it now. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. You do not want to miss our next deep dive into the secrets of the world's most powerful events. Unbelievable. The future is now.